not idle chatter.
No, we are still waiting on.
Well, yeah, we're a minute late.
Yes. Okay, so for our opening remarks, welcome to the August Design Review Committee meeting. I'm going to call the roll to confirm that our DRC members are present. Maury Davis.
Here.
Robert Jessica.
Here.
And then we are waiting on Andrew Winchell. So read his role when he arrives. So DRC meetings are held in person and streamed simultaneously to allow commissioners, applicants, and the public to attend online. For members of the board and applicants joining us this evening, if you lose internet connectivity during the meeting, please reconnect with us by phone. When called upon to speak, you must unmute yourself by clicking on the microphone that is on your command bar. We do not have the ability to unmute you. The meeting chat is active for participants who need technical assistance and should not be used for questions. The public may observe the meetings, but participation in the discussion is limited to applicants and members of the HLRB during the meeting. Public comment is welcome at the HLRB meeting, and information about signing up as a speaker or submitting a public comment for that meeting is available on the HLRB website. Finally, this is a public forum. Today's meeting is being recorded and will be posted to the county website. All information associated with today's meeting, whether written or spoken, is subject to the Freedom of Information Act requirements. Okay, so I will jump straight into our first project. So this is the return of the repair of a home after fire damage. So they are pursuing in-kind replacement of the siding.
Right.
So that is no longer on this because that counts as an in-kind replacement, which does not require COA. Right. So now what they're coming back to us with is they were not able to find an identical replacement for the door. So they are proposing some other replacements. And also they would like to put stained glass into the porch side window. The image that was submitted to us is an octagonal window in vinyl, but they plan to just inset stained glass into the existing square wooden diamond window.
Was the front door damaged irreparably in the fire?
We don't have a photograph of the door, but we think so based on the where the fire damage was, where the evidence of fire damage was, because it was in the front of the house, and also the fire and safety.
They bashed it in?
I'm not sure, but there are, our applicant is on the line. Mr. Jones, are you on the line?
Mr. Bethard is.
And Mr. Bethard.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm here, and apologies for not being on last month. I'm not sure if Mr. Jones is on yet, but I know he intends to join. The answer to the question, the door was not beat down by the firefighters, so it's still there. But from what I understand, it is no longer usable once we move back in the house. So we currently are keeping the same door while the work is being performed. So the door is currently on the house, but it's not it's not going to be functional going forward once we actually move in the house. Is what I've been informed.
And visually, it has a lot of smoke damage to it, from what I've seen out in inspections.
Right. Yeah, but sometimes if it like particularly if it's an old door, there may the lumber was a lot better back then. Right. The old growth wood, and a lot of times maybe it just needs to be
bend it down.
Cleaned and stripped and then refinished. Because it might be worth, because it might be a nicer door if it was if it was salvageable, but if it's not, then then I think do we have a picture of the door?
So this is it.
That's
this is the door.
So it has like a 4.
No, I think it's a solid
6. And I'm looking at the red, right?
Yes.
So it looks like the glass is any paint?
So
I think it's just one solid pane.
Yeah, it's one solid pane and then 3 shaker panels.
Vertical.
Horizontal.
Horizontal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And have we found a design that like that?
These are the ones that they have submitted.
I've been locked out for the past 15 minutes.
Oh, sorry.
Where out?
Yeah, wouldn't you have access to the second floor or the lobby?
No.
And then it wouldn't open the door. if you would, please check and make sure that we can get access
I-
in the future.
I think so. You were able to get up here?
I had to, when I came in off the street, but I tried to get in at the door down there between the two buildings.
Oh,
And
right,
that's,
next door.
that was locked.
Mhm.
So I had to go out to Wilson and walk up to the door up there to get in. I mean, it's like,
All the doors to the lobby were open and you came from that.
Said something about crumbs on the floor need to be vacuumed or something.
Anyway, I will fix it. Sorry about that. Okay,
anyway, yeah,
so,
so Andy, we're talking to the house that had the fire damage. They're looking for in-kind siding, so
Yeah.
that's no longer on the table. So now we're talking about the door.
the
And
front door they've submitted, they have a three
There it
panel,
is.
which has a horizontal panel on top, or then the 3-panel shaker with the 4 light above it.
yeah,
So those are the ones that they've submitted. I think you mentioned 5. Are there any others that you were considering?
I think that's everything that he was looking at that he sent to us.
Just those 2 that have been circled or all of the?
Yes.
Okay, so
And,
just,
and what he says is that it's not possible, he says, to get that exact door that's currently on the house. He said that's apparently not a possibility to get the door that has the one window at the top and it has the 3 the 3 little panels at the bottom, in the lower portion of the door. And so he's been looking for months and he says that he can't get that. And so what he said is, he said he's gonna send the options that he did find so that he could see what you all would approve. And I think he had been emailing, I believe, Serena, maybe with you, and to just sort of send all this information to you and see what the board would do in this
yes, so
situation.
I have the images on the screen. Can you see the images?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I was just checking to see whether those 2, because he had mentioned to me 5 options, but only 2 are circled. So I'm confirming that those are the only 2 that you are interested in?
I think for me, the discussion was going to be more along the lines of we're kind of, if we have to replace the door and we can't get the same door that we wanted, that we had, which is what our desire is to do, then I think our thought is to find out what the board would approve. So then we can know what our choices are. But so I guess that's kind of where I'm coming from is, would you approve what he has circled there, because those are the ones that would be our second best options if we can't get the exact same door that we have. And obviously we're going to paint it the same color, we're going to do all that, but what he's saying is he can't get another door, the same exact door.
well, my feeling about the one with the 3 lights is that would be inappropriate for the house, for the style of the house. But the one with 4 lights would probably be appropriate. I mean, it's actually what I thought was there. I mean, because that's usually what you would have found, back then. Although, they did do the single lights, but often you would have found it. So, I mean, that's what I think. But
Problem is the horizontal panels.
Those are on the.
that's how
front
the door is now. It has
Yeah,
3
those are on the
horizontal
front
panels.
door.
Does it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And how many?
And it has
Yes,
a single light above.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it has 3 horizontal panels and a single pane above.
Okay.
And apparently he's not able to get the single panel above.
Weird. Seems like they ought to be able to do that.
And I'm just going by what I'm told by him, because he's my, project manager. So, I'm not an expert in trying to find doors. And so he's
Yeah.
telling me that he's been telling me that for months, that he can't find another door. And so he's kind of stuck with this types of doors. And, my wife and I both do not want to deviate from the current door that we have.
Yeah, but what's weird about that is that they make other doors with a single pane.
Right, just not with the 3 verticals.
It's just mix and match. They ought to be able to do it. And also, I'm guessing that the ones that have the subdivisions, that's not true divided light, that those are at best simulated divided light, in which case underneath those
It
buttons.
says true divided.
Huh? It says true.
Divided right there, yeah.
Huh, okay, well,
Lauren has raised her hand, but I also want to note that Mr. Jones, who's the project manager on this, just join the call
Okay.
as well.
Well, anyway, I mean, I'm okay with the 4 if that's the best that can be done, but I'll also reiterate my comment that if there's any way that, that the original door can simply be, stripped and then repainted. If it's sound underneath the smoke damage, it might be a perfectly good door under there. But if it's warped or something, often the fire department, if they didn't beat it in, they may have been subject to a lot of water damage. So you never know. So if the door's not usable, I'd be okay with, what is it, F418. So I don't know what the rest of you guys think, but.
Can I just want to make
something.
Yeah, I would like to make one suggestion for the have you considered going to any of the salvage warehouses that are nearby in the Washington DC area? Because that's a very common door, and I bet you they probably have 30 of those types of doors that you could buy. And I just wanted to put that out there. There's Second Chance, which is and these are nonprofit salvage companies, but Second Chance may have it, or Community Forklift. And I believe they're both out of Baltimore. And I could provide you the contact information for somebody that I've worked with closely. And I don't know if I could just take that picture and say, do you have another one of these doors? But I think the trick would just be to see if they have the exact dimensions that you would need. But it might be an option to go with. But I also recognize that Robert just said that for F418 does seem like the closest to what was existing. But that would be the one thing I would suggest is to look at a salvage organization.
Thank you, Lauren.
Sure.
Second chance is taking that apart right now.
My one concern with that, I mean, I agree, I would love a salvage door, but it is quite hard because houses settle, older houses settle, it's quite hard to get a door to be plumb in a space, like a non-matching door, just because, and so it might be hard to get it to be sealed properly, but when the weather's
I think Lauren's comment is good. I think it's worth asking the question, because if there is a good door, it'll be a better door than what they're making today. Some of those old doors are really, solid. So anyway, it's worth investigating. But.
And
Well, I was gonna say, what, I'm not clear, what was the original door? How many lights?
It's
One
three horizontal panels
At the bottom.
and one light above.
And, okay,
it's like when photos used to appear in the 90s, pixel by pixel. If I go down and then just go. Oh. Okay. Sorry. It's got curtains, but it is 3 panels.
that looks like 4 lights.
I think it's
not
just the
though,
curtain.
yeah.
Hold on a second.
I've seen it in person. It's one panel at the top, one light.
Are we sure that's 3 panels and not 2? There's a really big bottom rail here.
No, it's three panels. at the bottom.
Okay.
That was just the curtain.
All right. Anyway, so
All right.
The problem is with the old door is it's really bubbled from the fire, and I don't know if we sanded that. I don't know if we necessarily would get all that out, and not only get the smell out of the door, out of the wood.
oh, they can. That's not a problem. They can seal it, and there wouldn't be any. I mean, people do that all the time. I don't think that's the problem. I think it's worth seeing whether that door can be saved. I mean, it's unusual because the top light, not only is it big, but the stiles are really narrow, and the top rail is also very narrow, which is unusual. That that's different than your typical door. I think it's worth seeing if that can be saved, quite
Okay,
frankly.
so if they can identify whether or not they can fix the existing door in
Right.
1 week,
Yeah.
they can get that, you can get that information to me.
Yeah,
And if not, it sounds like that F418 could be something that the HLRB discuss in the full meeting. So I'll follow up with you to get more details about that. While I have everyone, how does everyone feel about the stained glass idea in this? So that
where is the
Where is the
window?
precedent for
I'm
it?
good.
I'm sorry.
It's on the right side. It's to the right of the door,
It's right there.
right there.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean,
And since the framing is going to stay the same, it would just be the glass. So if glass were to break, just
I mean, that doesn't bother me, I don't know.
Well, it's this, I'm sorry, trapezoidal window.
yeah, it's a square.
Yeah, done.
It's a
It's
diamond.
a square, yeah, diamond. It doesn't face directly to the street. So that's one issue. But for this style of house, this age of house, I haven't seen too many stained glass windows. I don't think there are many. Alternative, the number of houses in the historic town that I have an old house in. Edenton, North Carolina, they accept putting stained glass behind an existing window to get that light coming in, if you will. You still keep the character of the window while you change it. So I'm just saying, that's the oldest historic district in North Carolina, and they are pretty strict.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's a possibility that,
I mean, that would be something that we wouldn't review.
yeah, it would be decorative. They just put it in behind the window and they probably could even, almost, like put some trim so that it looks like it's glazed in, but it's actually behind but I suspect that they'd like to see it from the outside.
Right.
So that's the question. I mean, personally, it doesn't bother me that much because it seems like that's the sort of thing that somebody would have done as an alteration to their house at some point. It's relatively small. It's not facing directly at the street.
With an ornamental window, say, or for a bathroom or something like that, you might have done stained glass.
Yeah, so it doesn't bother me, but
Yeah, it doesn't bother me, but I guess I would also fall back to I know that the new window guidelines it's a little bit different, I guess, but there's something in there about sort of special windows.
Yeah, this would now become well, actually, it's already a special window because it's not the traditional
Right.
6/6 or 1/1. So that's why it would be, if they'd wanted to replace it, either way, it would have come to us. And were they to want to replace it in the future, the process would be the same. Because it's
well,
already
just so we can keep moving. Can we find out whether so weird because the voices come out of the air. The gentleman who was speaking earlier, I mean, does the applicant wants to see the stained glass from the out, as the window material from the outside, or would they be okay mounting a stained glass panel on the inside so that the light would come through it and you'd see it from the inside?
I mean, he wanted to see it from the outside, and the owner is on here. You can personally ask him.
Yeah, the issue is I got disconnected because of a bad internet connection, so I'm sorry I may have missed a few of the comments here, but what we were trying to do is we couldn't find a window that we liked. that goes in that spot. And so we wanted to get an idea if we could use a stained glass window. We wanted to see if that was something that you all would approve, but we understand, that's what we're trying to figure out. That's our preference, but I certainly appreciate that suggestion. That's certainly another possibility. But we just wanted to see what would be approved if we want to find out what our options are.
Okay, well, I think you're hearing a little bit of pushback from the committee here about the stained glass being, replacing the existing window. And so I guess the advice would be to think about mounting it from the inside. And if you continue to feel like you really need to do it the other way, then I guess you could revisit that with the board. But right now, it seems like there's some pushback from the DRC. So I would consider doing it from the inside.
And so if we were to do it and have a regular window, that's the actual window, and then put stained glass on the inside, is that something that is objectionable?
No, that's fine. That's what we're talking about.
Okay, I'm just making sure that I want to make sure that we know what our options are, and we're not doing something that's going to create a problem.
So as long as the window is wood, you'll be fine.
Okay.
Yes.
No, that's
Okay.
What about the siding? Do we need to get that approved on this one too?
As long as it's identical in-kind replacement, so the same teardrop wood OOG, you do not need to have it approved.
And so you don't care whether we get what kind of wood we get,
No.
as long as it's wood.
Yes, I think you talked about maybe getting the cedar because you thought it might be of higher quality and last a bit longer.
Right.
I certainly agree with that over modern day pine. But yes, we have no jurisdiction over the kind of wood.
Because I understand that we had a miscommunication about this last month, and apologies for that, where people were complaining about the siding being removed, and then all of that sort of thing happened. And so what I want to be sure is that if we come back with wooden siding that has that same size and appearance, which we're looking to do, then we don't need some kind of approval. If we start putting it back up, people aren't going to come over and start complaining, and then we get a stop order or anything.
No, as long as it's the same and it's wood, and it's same dimension, same appearance, and same material, no, you're good to go.
Okay, because the thing, and I told this to I've told this to John, who's our project manager too, is I don't want to be the neighbor that irritates everybody by doing something that nobody likes. So I just want to be sure that we're not doing something that's going to create a problem here. But I want to be sure we're all good.
I think as long as the profile is identical, I think we don't need to review it because you're replacing it in kind. But also, I think everybody's gonna be very happy that you're doing this because this is one of the more beautiful siding patterns that and nobody does it anymore. So your commitment to preserving that, I think, is going to make everybody very happy, not just here at HLRB, but also in the neighborhood. So I think that's going to be very well received.
And just so you know, only one place makes it, and it's coming from Columbus, Ohio. I physically have to pay to have it shipped from Columbus to Arlington.
Well, typically, I don't know that any siding is made locally anyway. So eventually, it's all coming from somewhere. And whether you're paying directly to have it shipped or whether it's in the price of the siding that you're buying from a building supply company, it's not being made locally anyway. So and some siding, I'm pretty sure, comes from the West Coast. So anyway, so yeah, we can keep going.
So okay, so discussion agenda. I will reach out to you tomorrow just to follow up about what you can find out about those options, and then we can see what will be.
I'll have my his name's Chad. He's my environmental guy. I'll have him come and look at the door and have him do an assessment on the door, whether we can save it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Lovely. Okay. So this is an application by the Arlington Historical Society for a prototype for a project that they've been working on for some time, where they're identifying people who were enslaved in Arlington and collecting information about them and then memorializing them in the cultural landscape to bring their lives to life. So I'm sure they will do a better job of introducing that as well. This is just for one pilot, which is going to be at the Ball Sellers House. This is our pilot because it is a local historic district. I believe that they don't have the details nailed down yet. The location they are proposing, I also have a photograph because here. So this is the location that they are proposing. And let me go down to some of the examples they have. And it is being proposed by Jessica Kaplan and Tim Aiken. Are either of our applicants online?
I'm not sure. I'm not seeing anyone by that name, but there is an ALK guest.
Okay. Is there anyone online for the Arlington Historical Society? Okay.
How big are these?
So I think they're modeled on the, if you've read this, they're modeled on the stumbling stones that are around Germany. And I think they're just meant to be like 4 inches by 4 inches. I don't think they've.
Are you gonna be able to see this? I mean, like if somebody's just walking by on the sidewalk, are they gonna notice it?
So it's meant to be quite subtle because they're gonna want to put them all over the county to represent all the people. So there may be, luckily some of them, not luckily, but many people are attached to individual sites like labor camps and farms. So they will only have one marker for those people. But this is why they're trying to hash out specifically what they're looking for. Mario?
Would it be 3 for this site here, or?
No, so this is just examples of what they're
What they
considering.
look like?
Yes, I had thought to propose to them some of the survey markers that are already used, because if they are eventually, this one they can put on their private land because they own the Ball Sellers House.
Right.
But in the future, they will probably have to be in the public right of way, in which case we will want something that people can't trip over, that is easy to maintain, and that we know is durable, which brass isn't.
Right.
And so I was going to propose that they consider something like this that could be customized, and which in all likelihood would end up having something like a QR code on it, so that people could connect to the larger
Well,
information.
go back to that. So it says will be placed on concrete or stone set in the ground, because it seems like if you had something that was like made of stone that was like maybe 18 by 18 inches with this plaque in the middle of it, then you'd say, oh, what's that? And you'd go and look at it. But if it's too small.
I think it's meant to be very surreptitious, just because there might be 100 of them.
Well, but like for instance, at the Ball Sellers House, there's already the the aluminum historic marker. If you did something next to it, and like a paving stone, maybe 12 by 12 that was set right next to the pole there. Even if you were walking on the sidewalk, you would notice that there's something metal in the middle of this stone, and you say, "What's that?" And then you go over and look at it. Otherwise, if it's too surreptitious, you would never notice them. That's what I'm worried about. I mean, in other places, if it's set like in paving, that and you'd say you'd look at it and the example I remember is Rome, when we were in the piazza in front of the Pantheon. They had these, I don't know, maybe this is just a Rome thing, but they were these little thick metal things in the pavement that had, like the Pantheon. I guess it was to say that you were at the Pantheon or something. Like you're like, the Pantheon's right there, but there were these beautiful little bronze markers that were set in the cobblestones, and you did notice them. It was really nice. But if it's just in the grass over there, I'm just saying that we should be aware of the particular context, and that I would be okay if it came in a place like that, if it came with a larger stone sort of surround, just so that it's easier for people to notice that it's there.
Could you go back to the description elevation, 'cause I think they noted something about gravel surrounding it.
Yeah, that was one of the other
Surrounded by-
things, yeah.
By gravel, and in the grass, gravel would be relatively noticeable.
Yeah, if it was.
Because it's like a square of gravel, you would.
Right,
notice
yeah,
it.
so there's something to call attention to it.
Yeah.
Are they set on square or are they, is it, nobody knows yet?
They're still known on the call. So from what we had talked about, this is the design they've come to us with. They worked with, I think it's written somewhere. They worked with some students who do some kind of design in American schools. There are vocational classes where you do things with wood. I have not been to one of these schools, but I think some kind of tech class, they worked with them to come up with the design for the brass plaque, which is why we have the mock-up on the left. So that is the text that they would like to
In
include.
Arlington they did this?
Yes, they worked with an
Okay,
Arlington.
I know, I think,
And so this is the text they've mocked up because this is the information they have about the person who was enslaved at Full Sellers.
at Washington Lee, they had a tech shop, so I don't know if it was at Washington
Okay,
Lee.
so maybe, I'm not,
I think they have a couple of them around in Arlington, but yeah.
Career tech excellent.
Yeah.
So
I think
that's
this is-
interesting.
the text, they plan to have it on the brass stone and then they plan to have it inset into the gravel. This would only be at this site because in all likelihood it wouldn't be feasible.
Right.
Like,
In the public right of way
Yeah.
elsewhere.
What's the middle thing?
I think this, it's just the brass plaque mounted onto a stone, so it's easier to set.
Oh, I see, okay, yeah. Put it in.
Yeah, so they can
But
set
what figure
step.
one is actually what they want to put in? Like that's,
Yes,
that's
figure
the
one is the
design
mock-up
with
one
the
it will
actual
look like,
text
yeah.
that they're putting in the ground or proposing to.
So without the applicant here, I feel like we will need to just have this conversation at HLA.
Yeah.
I think the whole, it's I mean, we're the design review committee. The interesting thing is, I remember years ago, somebody was complaining, one of our former, I won't say who it was, but one of our former chairs was saying that, you have the LRB, which is what we do here is the LRB part. And then there was very little of the HR part. And this is the HR part, I mean, the HA part.
Right.
This is the HA part that the full board would really be interested in, so.
Okay. All right, well, I will put them on discussion and get in touch with them. I emailed back and forth with them this morning, so I'm not sure why they weren't
Yeah.
able to join us, but
That's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so our third item is the Collards,
This is
who,
the
the other fire damaged house in Maywood. They had the new construction. They came to us first.
Before we start, can I ask a question? Because I don't know, was there any damage from the windstorm in Maywood, did you know?
Yes,
Yes, a lot.
A lot?
Yeah, Michael can,
yeah.
Our neighborhood, it was weird. Our neighborhood was devastated. There were trees down everywhere, but almost no damage to houses. Somehow all the trees missed the houses except, in minor ways. Nobody got, there was a house in Kensington that got, like literally the trees went through it like a knife and just sliced through the house.
Wow.
And nobody was hurt, but anyway, so I was just wondering about
There was
Maywood.
one person apparently killed
Yeah,
in Arlington. Shower, he was in the shower.
yeah,
And the tree came down.
yes. So,
Yeah, there are, by my count, at least 6 properties that have sustained damage from trees. falling
and
on
that's just in Maywood or includes Cambridge Court?
That's just in Maywood, and then Cambridge Court also. has
so will we be
damage.
seeing a bunch of
It-
cases coming forward, or
it
are they all
depends.
going to be doing repairs?
I'm anticipating it's probably gonna be mostly
Okay,
repair
right.
work, replacement in kind, but I'm going to have conversations with the
Okay, right.
families just to figure out exactly what they want
But
to do.
so far, nothing severely damaged.
No, nothing like a house being chopped in half.
Or on fire.
Yes.
Okay, all
but
right,
so-
sorry. I just wanted to.
Sorry, this was the first
Right.
design that you approved, and it had this stairway by the side entrance that went back toward the front of the house. And then they came back and actually asked for it to come straight out in March 2022. And they ended up actually building the one from their initial COA. However, for the record, we need to have the correct one as the final stamped plan, which is why I needed to come back to you. So this is retroactive, and you did approve it in 2021.
Okay, so all we need is a consent, right?
Right. I think it makes a lot more sense because the ground is sloping.
Yeah, they figured that out. They-
Yeah.
I think they made a good choice.
Yeah, it also goes somewhere. Like there, it just went out into the bushes. And
Right,
instead now it goes
Yeah.
somewhere. So, okay, so consent? Or
Yeah.
just
I
consent?
have a question though. Are they gonna put a skirt around there? I mean, is this,
yeah, that exposed,
is that the finished
I
product there?
think there
or-
had been a plan to put something around it. I will
Okay.
follow
yeah,
up.
why don't you find out about that,
Yeah.
and maybe they can add that to whatever they're doing for the consent.
Yeah. Otherwise, I think, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so this is our final item, which is the return of the project at 2801
Okay,
Columbia Pike, because there were some final questions about some other design options, and Dick in particular asked to make sure that the design review committee had an option to see those rather than just approving it without having seen those. So I believe both Lauren is on the call and Sarah.
And
Marissa,
Sarah, yep.
So we'll do a better job of this.
okay.
Take it away.
Sarah, feel free to mention the way that things have gotten changed with the renderings. And, we're specifically looking at the windows based on what the HLRB requested. And so my understanding is that if the DRC are comfortable with how the windows are looking now, or if there's any other changes, then their conditional COA would become a final COA.
I think what was asked was
Can you go
to
back to
choose
the-
between two sets of windows. There were two.
Yeah, I think we
renderings,
were trying to provide a couple options.
right.
I tried to put together a quick summary because I thought it might be helpful. So just very briefly, we had presented the image. Is everyone seeing my screen? I should have asked. Yes, thank you, Lauren.
Yeah.
And good to see everyone. Thank you for all your feedback on this. John Regan and Angela Kostelecki with Devereaux and Associates are also on. But just brief recap is that in December, we had presented this design, received some comments, returned in July with this particular design. And the comment was about the window treatment at the corner. So we are looking at the window that was presented in December, as well as the window that was presented in July, and what would be the most appropriate for this building. I will let Angela and John jump in, but this is option one, which I think we think really is more in keeping with the historic facade and is an enhancement to that existing facade. Window option two is slightly different. And then I did put them together so that you all could look at them jointly and provide some comments. And John, Angela, jump in if you want, but I think in looking at this, we're really thinking that this particular window might be a better complement to the facade, but certainly welcome your feedback.
Well, just if I could make one comment.
Please.
On this optional window in the upper left, what we did was the previous design had pretty much squares, vertical square windows. And what we did was separate the mullions of the windows, the muttons of the windows, so it more resembles the windows on the existing building on the second floor, which is a smaller window pane and over top of a larger one, and then a smaller one on the bottom. And we also, the windows flanking on either side of the curve, we just repeated the regular pattern that we have on the rest of the building.
But if I remember, Andy, you last time, your comment was that you liked the way that there's no, larger mullion between these windows as opposed to that.
Right, the upper left is, I think, the appropriate.
Yeah,
No.
the horizontal subdivision matching that, I think everybody agrees is the way to go, right?
Right.
But the question is whether these heavier mullions should, become thinner, basically just a division in the glass rather than than having a division, in
Mhm.
cast or something.
Right, right.
Well, part of the
I think
reason, excuse me, go ahead.
I think what we were asked to do was to look at two and say which one we thought was better, and we asked them to do these two renderings. We weren't necessarily talking specifically about the size of the mullions or whatever. There's a very distinct difference between the windows. Option one at the upper left and the lower right. Lower right is a uniform kind of spacing of the windows, and option one mimics the existing, which is a larger pane in the center.
So you're okay with option one?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just trying to clarify that, because I thought I remembered your comment that you wanted it to look more like the way the windows turn the corner here.
Which I think that does.
You're good with that, okay.
Yeah.
That's fine, I'm okay with this too.
Yeah.
So and the comment that I had made that I also, which I don't see here, is I think I had made a comment about looking at putting a small band, but having it maybe more like this color, so that you get a little bit of a light
Right.
band at
Right.
the top of the building just to end it. Because right now, the building just seems to end.
I think they had that in there.
We
Yeah,
did do that.
Yeah.
Yes, here is how
Oh,
we
yeah,
had.
yeah,
to-
yeah.
There we go. Okay,
And
that's
we
fine.
have done that. It didn't carry forward into those renderings where we were focused on the windows, but yes, we will do the light banding at the top.
Yeah, that looks
Okay,
good.
yeah, right.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
I think this is good.
I'd reiterate what we said the last time. I think it's a really good design. I think I'm going to commend again the idea of doing the bus stop in the in the part of the building that steps in where the pizzeria is now, which is a very clever idea. I think it looks really great.
Yeah,
I think.
I agree.
I would go so far as to say I think it's probably potentially one of the best looking buildings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially given the new building on an historic. This is best I've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And-
Yeah,
and-
Okay, so we're comfortable, so everybody's comfortable with the window pattern fenestration going on with the building on the top left, at the top left?
Yes.
Okay, and we're not requesting any tweaks because the only thing we asked them to do is to provide another option with the fenestration pattern.
Correct. Right.
Okay, and Sarah's confirming at this recorded meeting that the top lighter coping does exist on
Correct.
on
It's
this.
not reflected in this rendering, but we understand
Very
that
fair.
and we will incorporate that top light banding. Yes.
Would you be able to, Sarah, would you all be able to make that change so that we can have that in our files and that ends up being what gets stamped? Because we stamp these plans when we say you have a certificate of appropriateness.
Angela,
And
I think that makes sense as long
Yeah,
as
we can certainly do that.
Okay, I think that would be helpful for staff.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure. With the window pattern in that upper left that we all think is the one that makes sense. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
We will do that.
Very good.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
very good. Very nice.
Thanks,
Great.
Sarah.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Okay,
Thank you.
thus ends our meeting. Thank you very much.
Well, so this still has